Hey everybody, it's me, Bryson Booker, and guess what? As you could see right in front of your face, I'm back with another microphone review just for you. Let me tell you guys something. This year has been a great year in terms of discovering what microphones that really give me the sound that I'm looking for. And I also wanted to look for mics that, number one, were not Sures because everybody knows about Shure mics. Not saying that they're bad mics, they're great mics. Shure mics are awesome, but me being kind of I don't know, I guess you could say pre-seasoned. I'm not gonna say seasoned, but I've been doing sound for a while, and to me, it's time to move on, and it's time to find some different microphones that I know will give me a creamier, more natural to the voice sound that I'm looking for when I do live sound. I'm not looking for mics that I have to do surgery on. I'm looking for mics that will sound musical as well as natural to really what humans sound like and to accurately portray their voices as they sing or speak live. And with everything that I just described, I have to say that the AKG D5 is one of those microphones that you either like it or you hate it. There's a lot of people that really stand by this microphone, such as Neil Diamond. I think Neil Diamond uses a D5. And then there's some people that, just don't like the microphone because they think, it sounds like there's a blanket over the microphone or it sounds like it's a little too muffled. So there's people on either side of the camp. But I kind of stand in the middle. This mic has its applications. It definitely is a great contender. It definitely is a great vocal mic. But I will say that it may not be for everyone. It really depends on your application. But I would say for most applications, you could get away with this and have a really good sounding mix if you happen to not have an SM58 or if you don't want to use an SM58. If you just want to try something different, this is definitely a great contender for you to try. And it's a great microphone that sounds great. I picked this up at Guitar Center. This is actually a used AKG D5. And it looks new, but that's because I had to do a little TLC to it, so it was a little dirty because the guy that had it before me was a DJ. At least this is what the store manager told me. He was a DJ, and he used a couple of D5s for his DJ business. So, of course, with that being said, there was a couple of markings on the microphone, as well as it was a little dirty. So I took it home, I cleaned it up, those sticky spots came right off, and then I got some matte black paint, and I kind of repainted the microphone to be black, so it looks a bit more formal. I'm not an excellent painter, as you can see. It seems like there's a little too much paint on there, but that's okay. It actually looks a lot better than it did. The only way that you know that it's used still is if you look up here. There's some wear on that paint up there, as well as the grill. You see how it's straight and then it comes back here and it kind of curves. That's the only sign that this microphone is used or has been used before I got it. But for the most part, you really can't tell when you're looking at it far away, and the artist probably won't be able to tell unless you told them that their microphone is used. But it's a very nice design. It's pretty hefty. It doesn't feel cheap. It feels pretty well made. The grill especially looks like it's well made. Especially somebody must have dropped it maybe at least a couple of times. So as you can see, you probably can't drop it a whole lot because it will get dented up a little easily. But for the most part, it seems pretty sturdy. I love the way it looks. I mean, it really sets itself apart just by the look of it, guys. It kind of looks nice and vintage, like kind of like a space age microphone. Kind of looks like a rocket ship, a vintage rocket ship. And so that's another reason why I bought it. It sets itself apart, and when you look at it, you know that it's going to do something special because it looks special. And it looks like if you had an artist, if you gave this to an artist, they would say like, "Wow, it's a really nice looking microphone." And so it has a special look to it, and I definitely believe that it has a special sound to it. And I think aesthetically, The sound contributes to how it looks aesthetically. It's very unique in its looks, and it's very unique in its sound. Obviously, if you don't know about AKG, like I said, they're a brand. You either like them or you hate them. They were famous. They're really famous in the studio world, releasing models such as the AKG C414, which a lot of engineers stand by, both live and studio engineers. A lot of people say that's one of their best mics. They also make the Perception series of microphones, both wireless and wired perception microphones. They make condenser microphones. They make the AKG Project Studio microphones for all of you home studio enthusiasts like myself a little bit. They make those. They've been around, guys, since around the 50s. I think I think the 40s. They're from Germany, and they really came to the U.S. Around the 80s. We got a U.S. subsidiary of AKG in the 1980s, the mid 80s. So they've been with us for a while. They're owned by Harman. So that's probably one of the main reasons why some people probably know about AKG, because every time you see a JBL speaker advertisement, you most likely see a D5. Every time you see a Soundcraft console commercial or a Soundcraft console video, most likely the microphone that's sitting right by the console is an AKG. So they've been partnering with Harman, I think, since 1994. And Harman has really kind of brought them up a little bit in the ranks, which is good, because before they weren't really that well known. But when they got with Harman, that was a good move, because Harman really treated them well and still treats them well, pairing them with a lot of their other products from JBL and Soundcraft and different other audio companies. So it's a pretty well-known name, and this is a pretty good microphone. And I'm going to do the sound test now. So we're going to go straight into the sound test, and then you can determine whether it's a great mic for you. Me personally, I would say females, definitely. If you don't have an SM58, use this. It'll probably sound a bit more studio-like than an SM58. That's really what I can say that sets this mark apart from a 58 and even a Sennheiser. It has more of a studio-like sound, letting you know that this mic is going to give you a clean template. If you want to EQ it the way that you want to EQ it, the mic is going to be okay with how you want to EQ the mic. If you like to take a subtractive approach like myself, you can take a subtractive approach and get rid of the bad and just, not boost anything. But if you do like to boost, I come to find out, even though I don't like to boost, I like to test, what would happen if you boosted frequencies in a microphone. The AKG does surprisingly well when you want to boost something, and you're pretty safe with feedback because it's a super cardioid mic. So if you wanted to boost, 2K to make a vocal kind of pop through the mix, you could do that on this mic and it'll sound pretty good. I would not recommend boosting the lower frequencies, because that's what this mic has a lot of. It's really buttery, it's really sweet in those low mids, and that's a lot of stuff that you really not have to take out of there. But if you wanted to add some presence, you could. Just be sure you don't add too much, or else it'll get overly sibilant. Me personally, taking a subtractive EQ approach, it's great on women's vocals. Men's vocals, you may have to carve out a little bit more of that low mid to really get these to cut through. I would say as far as singing, they do a decent job. I would say I would use them for acoustic acts, not necessarily maybe rock and roll bands, metal bands. I would not recommend that you use this mic, because it's going to be really hard for it to cut through a mix. But acoustic stuff, acoustic duos, jazz, this is what I would say this mic is used for. And any speech application, I think it's perfect for speeches. It's a really great sounding mic for speaking. And it's a great mic for singing too, but you just got to be mindful of the applications that you use it for. So I would say speaking, definitely number one. I think it's a bit better than the 58 for speaking. Singing, it depends on your application, and I would say mostly acoustic stuff, jazz stuff, not really big band stuff, because it'll be hard to cut through a mix. Unless you were singing stuff like, Tony Bennett or Neil Diamond. So now let's get into the sound test. All right, everybody, it's time for the sound test of the AKG D5 dynamic supercardioid microphone. Okay, so currently I am talking into the microphone with no processing. This is no processing, no EQ, no de-esser, no compressor, nothing. This is the mic right out of the box with no EQ. I am holding the microphone, so the last time when I did my Sennheiser mic test, I had it on a stand. This time, since it's a dynamic microphone, I can obviously hold it, so I'm just holding the microphone as I'm doing this test. And again, my lips are right on the microphone. I'll move my lips back a little bit, so this is about 1 inch away from the microphone. This is about 2 inches away from the microphone. This is about 3 inches away from the microphone. It's about 4 inches away from the microphone. It's 5 inches away from the microphone. Now I'm back on the microphone. My mouth is right on the mic. So as you could probably hear, it really trails off about 3 or 4 inches. So you really have to be right up on this, which is great because the mic isolates your vocal. It doesn't really pick up much else around it. I'll try going around the microphone now. Check, 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 check. So now I'm on the side of the microphone. Check, 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 check. On the bottom of the microphone. So you can tell that this is a supercardioid microphone. The pickup is very sharp. It has a sharp cutoff point. And it's a very narrow pickup. So it really wants to just pick up your voice, not so much other people around you or other instruments. So again, this is the mic with no processing. Okay, now you are hearing the AKG D5 with processing. Okay, so this time I added some EQ, I added some compression, and I also added a de-esser, and this is how it sounds. Again, this is how the AKG D5 sounds with processing. Everything has been processed. I do not have a pop filter for this test, or else I would put a pop filter on it, but this is, again, a dynamic mic. It's not really that bad to begin with as far as plosives. But speaking of plosives, let's just do a plosive and sibilance test. Well, I probably have to take the de-esser off for the sibilance test. So we'll just do the plosive test right now with our processing on. So this is just going to be a plosive test, and then I'll do a sibilance test with the de-esser off. So here's plosive. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Let me take my high-pass filter off, and we'll do another plosives test as well. But anyway, this is the microphone with processing. Okay, back on the AKG D5 with no processing, and now we can do an official plosives test as well as sibilance test. So here's our plosive test. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. It's very tame when it comes to plosives. It's not that bad. No high pass filter is engaged. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. That's a tongue twister. I'm right on the microphone, just to let you know. And now let's do a sibilance test. This mic, AKG mics are kind of known for being a little bright, especially their condenser mics, but let's see how this dynamic mic holds up to sibilance. So here we go. Susie sells she shells at school for 50 cents each. Susie sells she shells at school for 50 cents each. Susie sells seashells at school for 50 cents each. Susie sells seashells at school for 50 cents each. So there's a little bit of around 5K. It can get a little edgy if you put it on a female, maybe around 7K. So it's there, but it's not that bad. I mean, you can easily take it away with a de-esser, as you probably heard when I had processing on the mic. So I'll say it one more time. Susie sells seashells at school for 50 cents each. And that's our plosive and sibilance test. And we'll do one more test. We'll do a handling noise test too. So I am currently banging on the microphone. As you can see here, there's quite a bit of handling noise. Oh yeah, Part of that being because of this mic is supercardioid, there's a lobe in the low frequencies around this area, so that's probably why there's some handling noise. Just keep that in mind. Make sure you have a high pass on this, or else that handling noise could probably patch you in the feedback, because the mic is picking up some low frequencies that may feed back in a monitor, so be careful about that. Okay, snapping my finger behind the microphone to see if it picks it up. When I come to the side, you hear it a little bit, but then it drifts off.